I saw so many good things coming out of all of this. It encouraged me and it strengthened me. When you see good coming out of bad situations, it makes them not seem quite so bad. I was standing in my kitchen and watching television while I was grabbing a bite to eat, and I sneezed and it put me on the floor. It injured my back, and I was pretty sure I'd fractured some ribs. I've had fractured ribs before. I've been kind of hard on my body over the years. And I'm telling you, I couldn't hardly breathe. It hurt so bad. Back problems were not really new to me because I grew up, like I said, being pretty hard on my body. As I call it, when I was young, I thought I was 9 feet tall and bulletproof. So grew up riding motocross bikes and survived a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have. And it took a toll on my body. So even though I was very healthy, I'd had a lot of old injuries, and I just thought it was old injuries coming back to haunt me. And I told her that in late 2015 that I just couldn't keep living like I was because I was in so much pain. For the most part, I just didn't have any energy, and I thought that was because of the pain that I was in, just wearing me down. I do have a very high pain tolerance. As I tell people, you got to be tough when you're stupid, and I spent a lot of stupid years. So I didn't go to the doctor. I mean, I was kind of raised where you don't go to the doctor unless the bone's showing. So even after I sneezed and injured myself, I didn't go to the doctor, and I kept getting sick with chest congestion and fever. It seemed like every 2 or 3 months I would get really sick and I have a hard time shaking it. And I just never put 2 and 2 together. 2 and 2 came together on March 30th of 2016. I was sick once again, real bad chest congestion, fever. I was sleeping in our upstairs bedroom so that I didn't get my wife sick. And I got in the shower and the steam made me start coughing, and the pain was just indescribable. Every time I coughed, it just seemed like my back was just about to break in half. And little did I know it was. I actually got on my hands and knees in the shower right before my L5 vertebra collapsed. And for those people that don't know, multiple myeloma is a cancer of the blood that makes your bones basically disintegrate and become brittle, and that's why my back broke. I was at home alone, and I have been blessed, like I said, with a pretty high pain tolerance. So I was able to turn the water off. I eventually was able to stand up and dry off, and I got dressed, and I had to crawl down my stairs and went and drugged myself. I stayed at work that day, and that night I spent most of the night in tears, I don't mind saying. And the next day I went to see my primary care doctor, and he wanted me to go to the emergency room, and I wouldn't go. And I basically walked around for a week and a half on a collapsed vertebra, waiting for the MRI results or to get it done and get the results. So they did the test did the MRI on a Friday. And it was so funny because as I was walking out of his office, the doctor's office, and he's a buddy of mine, and I asked him, I said, what are the chances you think I have bone cancer? And he just looked at me funny. He said, I wasn't even thinking that way until you said that. So anyway, they did the test on a Friday. He called me on Monday morning and said that he said, you were right, it's cancer and it's bad. I had never heard of it. The only thing I knew, and of course, like I said, I don't really remember a lot about those first few days, but I remember they said, don't Google it. And for once in my life, I actually did what I was told, and I didn't Google it. My wife did, so she knew how serious things were. Because I hadn't heard of multiple myeloma, I was thinking, well, that's just a junior league cancer, it's not pancreatic cancer, it's not brain cancer, I'll be all right. And anyway, so yeah, as far as going out of state, the fear of the unknown is probably as bad as anything else. I even made it worse because I was in the hospital. I went in the hospital on a Tuesday, and of course on Wednesday I woke up sick and I couldn't eat, and They had to do a vertebroplasty to rebuild my L5 vertebra, and that's where they go in and inject cement and rebuild the vertebra. They were just trying to do that just to get me to Little Rock. I didn't really have a lot of time to think about it, I guess you would say, during those first few days. I got out of the hospital. I went on Tuesday. I got out on Sunday. I lied to them, told them I could eat. and finally, about Thursday, I got to where I could eat. I'd lost, from Tuesday until Thursday, I'd lost 18 pounds. And UAMS called me on Friday and said, when can you be here? And I said, well, it doesn't really matter, as soon as possible. And they said, be here Monday. And I said, okay, and hung up the phone. I didn't ask them, am I going to be doing testing? How long am I going to be there? Am I going to start treatments? I didn't know if I was going to be there for an hour or a month. And I had no business talking to anybody on the phone. So I should have just passed that phone off to my wife and let her handle things at that point. But I didn't. So we went to UAMS with absolutely no knowledge of how long we were going to be there or what to expect. And that was terrifying. It really was. I went through 2 real hard rounds of chemo. Was up there we'd go up for a few days of testing, come home for 2 days or 3 days or whatever, and then go back up. Since it was close to home, I was there for about a month for each of those treatments, with about a month break in between. And then I went back and did my first stem cell transplant and realized they were just playing the first 2 times. The stem cell transplant, I was up there for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, something like that. Came home for 2 months, went back, did another stem cell transplant, and had about a 2-month break, went back for a checkup. They said I was doing really well. So then they started another treatment. So basically it took about a year of being treated up there to get me in remission. And then I started maintenance treatments locally, and going back to UAMS every quarter in the beginning for testing, but I was doing treatments locally. So I did a total of 4 years of treatments. And we were on this emotional roller coaster. One minute I'm thinking, I'll be all right. And next minute we're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I've got a business. I've got, a daughter that was my daughter, I think, was 14 at the time, 13 or 14 at the time. My sons were older, but I had no clue what we were going to do. I had no clue how I was going to provide for my family. I mean, luckily, being in the financial industry, I can work from anywhere, as long as I have an internet connection and a phone. But I mean, it was just terrifying. And about the time one of us would kind of get it all together, and be strong, the other one would fall apart, and I changed a lot. There are those defining moments in your life that I think we all, when we look back our lives and say, this one instance changed us in some way. I have quite a few of those. I had to go for a bone marrow biopsy, and the doctor that was doing it, he tells me, he said, I'm going to give you a local anesthetic, and I'm going to drill a hole in your hip bone and open that enclosed cavity to air, and I'm going to stick a needle in there and draw fluid out. And he said, the pain is going to be off the charts, and there's nothing we can do about it. He said, the good news is it'll be over really quick. I don't mind telling you, I was a little bit nervous. They'd already done one on me, but they knocked me out for that one. And he starts talking to me. He said, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a financial advisor. I'm a lot smarter than I look. Well, he started laughing, and we kind of hit it off. Anyway, after it was all over with, I was getting dressed, pulling my pants up over this big diaper-sized bandage on my hip. And he said, before you go, here's my name and number. He said, I want you to call me so we can discuss you being my financial advisor. At that very moment, my life changed. I had a peace wash over me that is really hard to explain. I knew it was God telling me everything was going to be all right. I knew that he was telling me, hey, your business might even grow because of this. You don't need to worry about taking care of your family. And I know a lot of people don't understand this, but from that moment forward, I didn't worry about whether I was going to live or die. I didn't worry about providing for my family. I didn't worry about the treatments. I just didn't worry. I had peace. For probably the first time in my life, I changed at that very moment. I've actually shared this story with that doctor. He and I became friends, and I've got his cell phone number now. And, I think it had an impact on him too. I found peace for the first time in my life. I had somebody ask me one time, when this is all said and done, what do you want to take away with it? What was important to you? And that peace, I wouldn't change it for anything. And because I got that peace, I'm a lot more, and because I've been through this, I'm a lot more thoughtful of others. I'm so much more appreciative of my family and friends. When I was going through treatments, my phone would start going off at 6:30 in the morning from people all over the country that just tell me that they love me, they were praying for me, they were wishing me the best, they were thinking about me. We have a conscious decision to make. It is our decision on how we're going to deal with the tragedies and the difficulties that come on along in our lives. And it may be health, it may be marriage, it may be, whatever, business, whatever. But we have to make that conscious decision of who we're going to be and how people are going to remember us, whether it be we die tomorrow or 30 years from now. What is our legacy going to be? Was my family going to remember a guy that was angry or felt sorry for himself? Or was my family going to remember the guy that laughed when all of his hair fell out and half his mustache fell out and the other side was still there like normal? And that actually happened twice. And the first time it happened, I walked around the house with half a mustache for 3 days because I thought it was funny. It's changed me in many ways, and I try to help others in any time I can. I know the chances of multiple myeloma coming back are pretty high. I don't think the good Lord's done with me yet. I'm just trying to do a little good while I'm here, whether it be short time or a long time. I've got a lot of young people around me that are just amazing that I try to mentor, and I love seeing them grow and in business and in their confidence and their abilities. Try to help people that are fighting this multiple myeloma. I don't know what it's like to have prostate cancer. I don't know what it's like to have breast cancer or lung cancer. I know what it's like to have multiple myeloma, and that's maybe 1% of all cancer diagnosis or something like that. So, I can help those people, and I want to in any way that I can. I'm going to have some fun while I'm here, deal with the things that aren't fun to the best of my ability. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I'm a better friend. I'm more spiritual. I'm Christian. I'm closer to God than I've ever been. At the end of the day, I wouldn't change any of this, as hard as it's been. Now, some days it's easier to say that than others, but I wouldn't change it. In many ways, one of the best things that ever happened to me.